Hi, I'm Jose.
And I'm Chris. So I've been wondering something, Jose, and it's relative to positioning. And it's a question that people have been thinking about. So I'm going to throw this out to our audience. Why is it that some really talented designers are having a hard time getting work and are going broke?
Boom, that is a good question. And the opposite of that is, why are some lesser talented designers really successful and thriving? And people are always like, haters are like, why is that guy?
Yeah, their work is not that good.
Yeah.
Like, why is that?
Why does that happen?
And then there are some other designers who go and work in-house at an agency or a company, and the pay is really good, but then they're unhappy and they feel unfulfilled.
So basically they're a square peg in a round hole. They're like, not doing the work they want to do and not at the company they want to be at.
Something like that, but I also think it's more of a situation where they're kind of phoning it in. They showed up for the paycheck.
They showed up for a paycheck. All right.
Guys, stick around. We're going to be talking about this, positioning. Let me try this again.
I want you guys to listen to me.
Yeah.
I design sandwiches. My name is Jose Caballero and I talk about the business of design. I talk about a lot of stuff.
My name is Chris Doe and I talk about the business of design.
At the center of this operating system, it's about understanding.
Jose, can we just tell them what the show title is?
I hate you, dude.
You are watching The Process.
Yeah. Awesome graphics.
Skeleton crew today. Skeleton crew.
It's all good. So this question came from our audience, from you guys via social media, and the question was, somebody was asking, how do they position themselves in their design practice? So that's why we picked this topic.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about positioning your design agency for the maximum value.
Boom. So Chris, let's talk a little bit about what positioning is and your understanding of it. So
great. And I think a perfect example is to look at the brand Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola is something that you can buy in the supermarket at Staples, at Costco, or wherever, at 24-pack. It's going to cost you somewhere in the neighborhood of $13, $12.99. So doing the math, that's about 54 cents a can. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's when you're at the supermarket. There's lots of competition. You can pick every brand, everything that you can imagine. But if you go to the beach, or say to the amusement park like Six Flags Magic Mountain, they're going to charge you somewhere between $1 and $1.50 a can.
That's
maybe
expensive.
Even more. It is expensive.
That's like 3 times what the original cost was.
Now think about this. This is the exact same fizzy water that you can buy, same carbonated syrupy thing that you can buy, and that's a 300% increase in price. And so you have to kind of think, why is that can of Coke worth more at the beach or at the amusement park? Why is that? So you get into this idea of scarcity, and there's greater demand for it. So there are few options at the beach, and there's like one vending machine or two, so your choices are limited. There's demand because it's hot, and there's not access to a supermarket. Okay, so there's a lot of demand there, and it's really convenient.
So what you're talking about in this case scenario is pricing and location as a big marker in the quote unquote positioning of this particular product in different places.
Right. So if you just move that can of Coke, depending on where you are, it's going to be more or less expensive. So if you say take it to maybe where there's, maybe it's Alaska where it's cold and people don't want another cold drink. Maybe coffee is more important in cold weather, then it's going to be less valuable.
Interesting. That's an awesome example. What's the other examples that are out there?
I think we have a couple to look at. So let's look at one of my favorite brands, Apple. Right, the world's most valuable company. This is about positioning based on price. So here we see 3 iMacs, and it's very typical for Apple to offer 3 computers or 3 iPhone models or 3 iPad models. And you notice the pricing varies. So you have one at the entry level, which is $17.99, one at $19.99, and one at $24.99. They do this very deliberately because they know most people don't see themselves as needing the most expensive version. So they tend to buy the middle version. So this is about pricing strategy. So there you can get more people to buy the $19.99 one by having one that's priced higher, and they know this, okay? And there's a different thing that Apple's doing too about positioning, and this is when Steve Jobs returned to the company and he launched the Think Different campaign. Apple's heritage is one that kind of grew out from the garage, these kind of rebel maverick types to kind of change the world with personal computers.
Yep.
And so they launched this campaign, and they were positioning themselves to align themselves with the idea of out-of-the-box thinkers, innovators. And so let's look at that commercial that launched this campaign. Let's roll that tape.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers. The round pegs in the square holes. The ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
That's pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome. And you know what's interesting about that campaign and about what Steve Jobs did, and I read recently something about it in terms of the why he actually chose to come back, and well, not to come back, but when he came back, he chose to take it away from even being about computers,
right,
or about being price, or the benefits and the features of the computer product, and since there's Richard Branson's in there on a balloon, and he's always been an interesting entrepreneur and somebody that I really admire. Before you do this next case study, could I actually do one real quick? Just
go ahead.
Walk through it real quick,
and
if Ty, my monitor
well,
works.
we have to switch to this.
Oh, we have to switch it from our own side. Yeah, there we go. So just Virgin really quick, especially with Virgin America, which I've been actually
there you go.
taking
it's looking at
a lot frequently. There we go. The idea of taking the business model, a proven business model, and changing the delivery style. So I'll do it very briefly. So Virgin America defining elegance in flying, and this is from an actual positioning, internal presentation at Virgin. Southwest happens to be the best operating airline. They make the most revenue. Everybody else kind of loses money. So this low-cost airline, then targeting young, urban, tech-savvy, budget, but also fashion and style consumers, and the perceptual mapping or all these other things they had in there. So stylish travel at a discount price. So basically, Virgin America is Southwest for cooler people. So the positioning shift and the delivery or the design of the experience allows you to do that. This is also a really good example.
So let's talk about cars for a second. Yeah, so every car will get you from point A to point B. But they're vastly different in styling and brands and price points and all that kind of stuff. So let's take a look at one in particular. Let me switch that over.
I think this is one of my favorite executions of this particular model.
So Toyota is the original company that launched cars in America, right? So then they started to feel like they wanted to move up market, and so they developed Lexus, and they used all their knowledge about manufacturing and design.
Their existing infrastructure, basically.
Right, and they created another brand, and they wanted to test to see if people knew that it was a Toyota as the parent company, that they would pay for it, and it's proven to be very successful. So successful, in fact, that they launched another company, another brand called Scion. Now, these are all built on the same platforms. They share lots of parts.
They share a lot of the parts,
but the price point is drastically different.
So
it's Scion,
design and targeting, basically, or design and who's being targeted.
Well, they're just targeting different buyers. The younger group, they're maybe tuners, or they just like a funkier car. And I see some older people buying Scions.
That consider themselves younger.
There's some,
I would buy a Scion.
Some young affluent people that are able to buy Lexuses. So it's all about positioning.
But it's all about positioning
and lining up your product, your brand with your customers.
This is great. These are some amazing examples. So how do our people, like our audience, if I'm a designer out there and I'm trying to figure out what does positioning mean and how do I position my design practice? How do you do that, Chris?
Okay, so we're going to break it down into 3 components. The first component is what do you love? The second one is what are you really good at? And what pays well? So they're represented by these three circular icons: the heart, the trophy, like what you're really good at, like world class, and the price tag, what pays a lot. So let's take a look at that. So first thing you need to do is define what you're good at.
So like I know that I'm really good with people and with sales and with coming up with big ideas.
Right. So here's a list of things that you may be good at. We assume that you love design and creativity. If you're watching the show, we assume that about you. So there's a bunch of things here. And these are skills that you could claim all at the same time. Packaging, typography, identity design, branding, UX, UI, all that kind of stuff. You do it all. So here's the thing I'm going to have to say from a positioning point. You can stand for one thing and you can try to claim expertise in it. It's very hard to claim all of these things. So what you have to do, in my opinion, is pick one.
Pick one thing that you're good at.
What are you really good at? And you like to say focus, because you can focus and add 1 or 2 or 3 even different disciplines.
I like your idea of picking one and sticking to it. Now, there's the thing is that one positioning or one thing that you're good at doesn't exclude other things. It just means that that's what I call your wedge. So when I had my practice, I, over time, repositioned myself or the agency as a whole as a strategic design for startups. So who it was for, what we did, and in what flavor or kind of what way we did it was really critical.
So people like us when we draw. So the first thing I'm going to hold up here is what you love, right?
Yep.
So after that, I'm going to add something. So we're going to draw a little Venn diagram here.
Go knock it out of the park.
And we
there.
talked about identifying what you're good at, okay? So if you have this, what you love, what you're good at, you'll be happy, but you'll be poor. Okay, so you'll be happy but poor. All right, so now we have to kind of get the third circle in here for that Venn diagram, and we're going to look at what pays well. So I'm going to add that circle here. Jose and I are drawing now.
We're all drawing at the same time, which is actually so I love that Venn diagram because it really does show the example of exactly what.
So now, Andrew, can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so what if you love something and it pays well, you're not good at it, it's just a dream. So you're a dreamer. And some of us suffer from that. You know, we have all these lofty aspirations, but we're not really good at it. We haven't put the time in, we haven't studied it enough, we haven't practiced it. And then if you're good at something and it pays well, you'll be rich, but you'll be bored. And that's the answer to why some designers go in-house. It's a cushy job, they work from 9 to 5, they get all the perks, but they're bored because they don't love it anymore.
Well, it pays well and they're good at it, they don't have to love it.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is get inside the center here. And that's what we're talking about positioning. That's what we're going to call as the win. All right, guys? So
but why should somebody? Why can't somebody just pick everything and do everything? I mean, that's a really kind of like in my infinite ADD. I always kind of had that as a problem. I still do to this day, where I want to do everything right. But I think there's an answer to that.
There is.
I've learned it from you. I've learned it from advisors.
What's your
my learning is that you only have so much energy to get something off the ground. So I see a lot of creative people try to do, the way that I saw it quoted by a friend is you can either move 1,000 marbles 1 inch, or you can move 3 marbles a mile. So people try to move 1,000 marbles at the same time. I do, design for brands and macrame and motion and wayfinding, and you're trying to do all those things at the same time. It takes too much energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid explanation. Marty Neumeyer describes this like if you look at your brain, it's highly evolved and to work in a very specific way. Think about it as like a bento box, right? Mm-hmm. So for every category that you can remember, you tend to remember only the top. Yep. So if you say like MP3 player, what do you think of? iPod.
iPod, yeah.
Right? So if you think of a phone, most of us that are in the kind of Mac community, we're going to say iPhone. We don't say Galaxy S3 Tab. I don't even know what they're called anymore. Yeah. And so you only kind of remember the top ones.
The top 3.
A motorcycle brand.
Yeah.
We can go on
Harley,
and on and on.
Honda.
So what happens is if you try to claim everything,
people won't remember
you.
Yeah.
You can't.
I don't even remember. Oh no, Jose does that really good. Chris does this really good. Interesting. So
I look at it more from that point of view.
In the book, Positioning, The Battle for the Mind, and we'll put a link below, and it's a slightly older book, but still really relevant because at the beginning it really explains what positioning is. And that's one of the biggest things it brings up, that the need for positioning comes from consumers, people in general, having so much stuff to remember, and not being able to position yourself in one or the other specific one basically gives you a disadvantage because people won't remember what it is.
And I want to say this because I know there are some people who are watching that are going to get really upset at me that you have to pick one and stick with it because what makes us creative human beings and the spice of life is variety. I totally get that. You do not have to give up all the other disciplines that you've learned, like typography, packaging, and everything else. You could bring that in. But position yourself as the one that you're going to develop expertise in and make a claim and support it. and then align that with a customer or client that sees the same value that you do. And once you bring them on board, you offer them up other things as you kind of gain their trust. So you don't throw away those disciplines.
You don't throw everything away.
You don't destroy it.
That's interesting.
Okay, it's just about selectively filtering and focusing it in. So let's talk about what industries that value your skill set. So we have to kind of think about that, okay? And I guess we can talk about the restaurant example here. I'm not going off script here, but
No,
let's
that's a
just
good
say like
example.
you love doing identity design for food kind of restaurant spaces.
Yeah.
But you're working with mostly mom and pop kind of operations. So they have a limited budget. Their capacity to execute, even if they loved all your designs, is limited.
It's limited, yeah.
Because they have a limited operating income, right? So you might start to look at a small chain, a mid-sized chain, or even a national chain, or a really high-end restaurant, or they can afford to do that where their brand and their imaging is really important to them. Same skill set, same problem solving, same industry, slightly different client. And that's where you can create value. So when you get the value and, your skill set aligned with the right customer, the industry, then your value is aligned. You're not getting half the dollar bill, you're getting all of it. Okay, so here's another graphic that I made that might help you guys understand this. So remember the pink circle, the trophy, what you're really good at, the area of your expertise. Somewhere out there is an industry that values what you do.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you love designing interfaces, what kind of industry might you
I mean, you can do
pursue?
it for small startups, or you can do it for big conglomerates.
Yeah.
Or for a big agency.
Or if you just love mocking up super cool interfaces, you could get a job designing the screens that appear on movies, and now that seems to be very much on
hip.
trend. So you can work in the film industry, the entertainment industry. So when you align the two circles between what you're good at, what pays well, and you must love this, it's under the umbrella, like you're very passionate about this, it's your win scenario. So we need to profile some customers, right? Because we need to understand what industries
Well,
there
that's
are.
actually, and this is a drawing that I made, this, which is a good segue into this thing. The key things that you need to be able to do in positioning is have, define who you're actually targeting, like who's your audience and in what style you're delivering it to them. So Virgin basically was doing, young urban, basically Virgin is, for hipsters, and they deliver in a cool style. There's electronica music and a pink airplane inside the interior. And then what you're doing for them basically is the actual design or operation if you're just directly a customer. So in the case scenario of an architect, you're designing a building for them. So who are you designing the building for? In what style are you doing that in form? Meaning as a service delivery.
So let's take a look at a couple of brands here. So if we can cut to my screen. So here's Harley Davidson. They have a very defined brand. We know what the brand stands for. It's kind of this rebel outlaw culture.
Freedom.
Right?
Rebel freedom. All American freedom.
It's
For
kind of-
lawyers and hedge fund managers.
Right? So you can look at the language, black market, the skid marks that are made with the tires, that kind of thing. They're redefining the word black market.
I love it.
Right? So here's another brand. Maybe on the, it's kind of still related to the transportation, but has a totally different vibe, a completely different essence. It's Mini Cooper. I drive a Mini Cooper, and
It's totally Christo.
the voice, the brand, all those kinds of things, the aesthetic choices that Mini Cooper has made appeal to me, and I want to associate myself with that.
With it, yeah.
With that brand. It's very British. They talk a lot about handling, like go-kart like handling. They say instead of the trunk, they say the boot. Put it in the boot, or let's motor, or go motoring. That kind of thing. It's very kind of polite British, but it's fun and
But
spunky.
it's still fun.
It's fun.
It's fun.
Okay.
It is totally Christo. It's a little stiff, but goes fast.
No, it's fun and perky and
Perky, yeah, there you
powerful. Anyways, here's a brand that Jose is very familiar with, Lululemon. It's kind of very much.
What does that mean?
It's like it's for
Santa
fitness,
Monica.
active yoga.
Well, yeah, you know what? It's yoga it's performance. So it's like Nike for yoga.
It's kind of high end. It's a little pricey.
Expensive.
But you can see here, like, let's dissect this image for a second here. You see a lady. She's stretching. She's not like flipping tires or smashing things with a sledgehammer. It's kind of very subdued palette. It's very soft.
Look at the target. It's super clear. It's primarily women, and there's one guy in the 4 pictures.
And white.
And it's white. Yeah.
So this is a very much like
affluent white folk.
Yeah. Kind of.
Totally.
Right.
Or people who associate with that.
So here's another brand, and I'm just swinging around the spectrum, and we'll get to the point as to why we're looking at all these brands, because we're trying to profile the customers, understand how they look and talk to their customers, because you're going to need to do the same thing. This brand is Kill Spencer. It's an LA-based company. It's an art center product designer created this company. And you can see it's very masculine. Look at the leather-wrapped football, the baseball
It's
bat
style
handles.
for the manly man. That's what this is.
It's very manly,
Yeah.
but it's high style.
Yeah, it's high style. Yeah.
So look at the speed bag and the kind of design and craftsmanship. There's something really cool and appealing about this brand to me. And lastly, we're going to look at Stella McCartney's collaboration with Adidas. This is high fashion meets sport apparel. So it's kind of within the reach of athletic people, but it's got high fashion. So there are some people that this appeals to very much so. So Stella McCartney, Adidas. Look at the way the typography is done. The model herself is very kind of what you would generally associate with high fashion, but her hair and her positioning in terms of her
So this is
body
like
language.
high fashion, by having two brands together,
Mm-hmm.
is basically high fashion athleticism or performance.
Now, why am I showing you all this stuff? Because what you need to do is to understand who your customers are, and you need to start to sound and look like them. So here's a total mismatch, right? Where you see the hippie guy on the left, sort of, I think it's a Halloween costume, I think. And then you see the
Yeah.
business guy. So if you're going to come in and you're going to start to talk to hedge fund managers, you can't come in there not looking and sounding like them. It's going to throw them off. And there's a reason why, and this is an Anthony Robbins quote, Tony Robbins, right? That people like people who are like themselves or how they'd like to be like. Think about your friends. Are you quiet? They're loud? No, generally speaking, quiet people like to hang out with quiet people. You and I are an exception to that
An
rule.
exception, yeah.
We're an exception.
Why the hell do we even hang out? We're like so mismatched. It's not even funny.
You know, like
Yeah.
if I like to work out, then I like to be around people who also work
Who
out.
also work out, yeah.
So the
And you
tone,
influence each
vocabulary,
other, yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
So how
as
do
a-
I do this as a okay?
Get
so
practical,
this is all
right?
great. Let's get practical. Let's
Right.
get Chris to, and it's funny that I'm the one doing that. Like, how do I, as a designer who watches this, utilize what we're talking about to do? Like,
Okay.
I want to target a specific market. How do I get clients?
All right, so what you have to do is you have to look at what kind of access you have. You need to gain access, and there's a couple things that you can do. There's like kind of 3 bullet points here. One is you have to look in your professional circles. If you hang all day around graphic designers, generally speaking, you're not going to get work from them. It's going to be very hard for you guys to move
But I
on.
like graphic designers. They're my people.
That's
I can
totally
talk
cool.
to them.
Then you guys will hang out and drink coffee all day.
Right.
But if you're looking to align your practice with people who can afford to pay you what you're worth, you have to start looking in professional circles. So think about doctors, attorneys, accountants, financial advisors, people that are professional.
Yep.
And start talking to them and see if they need help with anything.
Does that
or-
mean I have to get out of shorts and put on some clothes?
You have to put on some clothes,
Yeah.
preferably. Anyways, every industry has trade shows.
Yep.
You can go and attend a trade show and get a whole list of people you can talk to, and you can start to associate yourselves with those people. And lastly, your local business journal. There's a list there. I know the LA Business Journal publishes these reports all the time. The 100 most successful companies in retail in Los Angeles, the greater Los
Yep.
Angeles area. So that's how you start to learn about who these people are. And with the internet available, you can just find everything at your fingertips.
Right, and I mean, there's everything included. Like, if you want to, you can put things together. If you want to learn how to be a better speaker, and you go to Toastmasters, for example, which has chapters in every city, suddenly you're going to meet other entrepreneurs from other businesses. So you need to diversify your audience. Or one thing I did when I had my agency is I wanted to get into the green and sustainability space because it felt good. And how do I do that? I had just finished doing a big project in the green space. It came to me coincidentally. But then how do I double down on that? So basically I did pro bono, the identity for a green conference. Who comes to a green conference? Businesses that are green. And I met a ton of people, and that basically repositioned us almost solely to do those big movements.
Well, this is a question that Ty threw out there. So what if you can't get your foot in the door at Adidas or a big manufacturer like Adobe or something, or not a big company?
Yeah,
that
no, a big company
manufactures?
like Adobe.
So
or
here's how you need to
Adidas.
look at it. You kind of have to look at the supply chain.
Yeah.
Okay. Every company is dependent on other companies to give them parts and pieces. So
Yep.
let's just take Adidas for example. If you go to their trade show, I'm sure they're gonna have this massive booth, hundreds of people working the floor. Very hard to get in there, especially because they don't know who you are. You don't have the credentials to meet with them. But think about all the suppliers that give Adidas their things. Maybe there's a manufacturer that makes the grommets, the rubber manufacturer. I know Vibram makes some soles for different companies, or what is it?
People who
Goodyear.
basically do
Goodyear makes rubbers,
right.
the rubber, it's the sticky rubber for their hiking boots, or the textile manufacturer. So you don't always have to go to the biggest fish.
Right.
Scale it to where you can have access to. And then once you find them, you see the little fish there with the lower lip. He's got an underbite. Match and mirror.
You have to match and mirror.
You got to match and mirror. You got to look and sound and walk and talk just like them. All right. So
one of the mistakes that I see people make. So here we're talking about these tactical things that you can do in order to get to these things. And I want to show one last drawing in the few minutes that we have left. So the thing that people fail to do is that they fail to define themselves. It's like, so who they are, who their customers are, and basically what are their different goals from a functional standpoint. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I call this the wedge issue. Like if you want to, imagine this up down here is the market, this is the industry you want to get into. It's like a brick wall. So having a wedge allows you to actually kind of make an impact and actually get into that industry. What most people do when they're everything to everybody, like if I were to draw the approach that everybody takes is this. They say, look, we do everything for everybody, and I kind of make that equivalent to like trying to do a big brick trying to like penetrate a brick wall, which is hard because it just lands flat on it when you do too many things, and it's not a easy thing to do. Anyhow.
So let's summarize. We have a few minutes remaining here. In summary, what you want to do is
profile your clients.
Yeah. Understand who your customers are.
Yeah.
Learn about their business.
Yeah.
And once you learn about them, match and mirror. Match their look, the tone, the messaging, the language that they use, everything, the volume. Try and dial in there because they're going to feel comfortable working with you. And lastly,
I mean, the say it and stick to it. I mean, consistency is really important. That's the other thing, you know, there's not defining it. You could define it, but then not be consistent. And you know, one thing to be really fair, Chris, though, this is something that I think is in line with even today, is that things do change, and you might actually change your desire to be in a particular industry, and you can reposition yourself, or the industries shift and change, businesses change. So there is an art form in learning how to define and execute new positionings or new, you know what I mean? Like if you know how to do the process of redefining yourself, you're gonna have to do it over and over again in your 20, 30, 40, 50-year practice. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like Madonna wasn't, you know, the material girl all the time. She went through all these different phases, you know, like...
she evolved.
She evolved, and it was cyclical every X amount of years.
Yeah.
And then you hit a maturation phase, and then you have to re-evolve again.
And then grossing guys out like Drake. But
right,
that's
but that's an example of a partnership and repositioning. In order to keep her relevant, she partners with younger or more contemporary acts.
Sure.
So that's a...
You're saying you can evolve.
You can evolve.
Okay.
You don't have to stay static.
Jose came up with that expression, say it and stick to it, because he's a fan of Ron Popeil, like set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it.
Right.
And I'm also really flaky, and I have the tendency to do this a lot. So I really need to narrow myself down all the time.
But it's grown on me a little bit in the days that was conceived. And the reason why I think of it, the say it, let's just think about that part, say it. If you go to a lot of design websites, they don't say anything, they just show you a bunch of work. They're not even staking any kind of claim in the marketplace.
I do this for this audience. I do strategic design for successful CEOs.
Even better, if you can say the benefit to the person that you're talking to.
Grow your business with great design.
For CEOs.
Successful CEOs.
There you go. And then the next thing is to stick to it. So one thing before we kind of part here is I want you guys to think about this. You will not be able to make a claim that is backed up by all this work, right? Because if you're going to position yourself to be of value, you're going to make a claim that you can't support today, then that's totally okay.
Yes,
so you may make the claim that I'm going to help you grow your business for successful CEOs, but you have nothing to back it up. It's okay, make the claim first and start to build over time expertise that supports your claim.
Yep.
That's really it. And then over time you can evolve and change. I think that's it for our show today, right?
This is a really good show. If you guys have any questions or comments about positioning and as a topic, you know, first of all, was this helpful, you know, to share with you? Second, just ask us the questions below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. That really
can you cut to this card?
Yeah. And then we are going to see you again on our next show when we continue talking about stuff like positioning.
Great.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Bye.
Woo. That's a big hand of applause for the. I love these things. These things are awesome.
We do.